How do you get to where you're going? Now, assuming most people watching this live in the continental US, I think it'd be fair to say that you drive.
My very first car was a 1981 Buick Regal, and this was 1996 when I got it.
I had a 1990 Honda Accord.
This is my first car.
What kind of car is it?
Oh, this is a 2004 Chevy Cavalier.
My very first car, and when I say this, people are always like, what did you say? My first car was a Nissan Datsun. And people always ask, they're like, well, was it a Nissan or was it a Datsun? It was a Nissan Datsun.
Unlike other countries who use public transportation, the US is home to more cars than any other country in the world. Something like 300 million cars, with China at a far second, home to just 98 million cars. But why are we so obsessed with cars?
I think we like having things, and I think we like having our own things. Like I feel like we're a very individualistic culture.
Now, I think we see cars in other in movies and media, and we see people. It's like a sign of wealth. It's like like I get embarrassed sometimes. Like I've gone to like a job interview, and have parked further away from like the front door because I didn't want them to see me get out of my car.
Mariah and I have been saving for a new car for the last 3 years, and I gotta say, Tesla is what has totally, it kind of took over my my thoughts.
You explained this concept of Object A to me probably like a year ago, maybe. And we were having a drink and you explained it to me, and in my mind I'm like, oh, this is the Tesla for me.
But when it comes down to it, I've got to ask myself, like, should I make that a priority to get this brand new fancy schmancy Tesla? And when I'm honest with myself, I can look at that impulse and I can say, hey Ryan, you don't have a house yet. You don't own a home. And owning a home probably should be a little bit more up on the priority.
A huge part of my teenage years revolved around cars. Getting a license, learning to drive, dating, spending time with friends, road trips. Road trips are another staple of American culture that plays into why we all have cars.
Did your family ever go on road trips? Were you a road trip family?
Yes, unfortunately. I mean, now looking back on them, like it was special, but they were not. It wasn't fun. Like we drove to Miami, we drove to Detroit.
Here in Los Angeles, you're within a 3 hours drive of anywhere you want to be, whether it's snowboarding or whether it's surfing or whether it's Disneyland, whatever it is. When Mariah and I were looking at purchasing a new car, we were considering these snowboarding trips that we do. So we needed a car that was all-wheel drive. We're gonna be in the snow. It's a bit safer to have an all-wheel drive car.
Not a road trip family. We definitely have gone to Disneyland and gone to like Texas. And obviously, if you have a family, you want to have like a safe, reliable, comfortable car that has space. I think maybe that is a deciding factor if you're a family man, but I have a dog and a cat.
I grew up seeing the world from the back seat of a car stuffed with luggage. And as soon as I was old enough, I was the one driving the family across the country. And I'm not alone. 53% of US families plan road trips every year.
Up until recently, Mariah and I, we had a 2004 Toyota Corolla. Josh and I always joked around and called it our tour bus because that's what him and I went on all of our tours with that we drove in the United States and Canada. And that thing had about 250,000 miles on it. It's just been such a reliable car. That's that's cars where I first kissed Mariah. I mean, there's so many memories with that car that I just didn't realize, because I traded it in for this, I didn't realize when I was handing the keys over how much or how hard it was gonna be for me to let it go.
By now, I know what you're thinking. Jordan, what does this have to do with minimalism? Well, what happens when your car, that thing you spend so much time in, becomes an extension of you?
Josh and I talk a lot about letting go of sentimental things. I'll tell you, I still think about it. And there's still a little piece of me that, wishes I would have gotten rid of the car a different way, or could have held on to it. They didn't give me that much for it. There's all these what ifs, but ultimately, I think the act of letting go and getting used to letting go of sentimental things, that to me is more valuable than anything else that I could have done with that car.
I think Range Rovers are a piece of art, but just like art, they're very expensive. And I can look at a really nice Range Rover that probably cost $100,000 and appreciate it the same way I can go to the LACMA and appreciate a Picasso painting without having to bring it home.
When we talk about the physical clutter in our lives stressing us out, nowhere is it more prevalent than inside the very thing that takes us to and from events in our lives.
The one thing I have in this vehicle that is probably unnecessary is I have the old bike rack from the Toyota Corolla.
But there is a rearview mirror, which is falling off. So when I do need it, I'll just kind of hold it. And I'm like, okay, I'm good.
I had CDs, a lot of CDs, and that's super unnecessary to have so many or not have them in a CD book, but I would have them in their sleeves.
I'm from Dayton, Ohio, which is one of the rainiest places in the country. I go back there quite a bit, and I bought this vehicle while I was in Montana, and it actually made a lot more sense to have a truck when I was in Montana. But the thing that's most unnecessary is probably this umbrella.
I haven't put it on Craigslist or tried to sell it on eBay. In fact, I might just give it away for free. But I have that sitting in here right now. That totally does not fit on this car, so it's a big hunk of junk that that for all intents and purposes is pointless.
Got sunglasses in here. I've got driving gloves.
Because it never rains in California. I'll tell you this though, as soon as the day I removed it from my car, it rained.
Americans spend an average of 216 hours a year in their cars. I know if you live on a rural farm in Nebraska, you probably need a car to get to the nearest house, let alone get groceries. But for the majority of people living in densely populated urban cities, let's consider the trade-offs in a modern world we live in. With rideshare services like Uber and Lyft, as well as cities increasingly improving public transit, not to mention the higher gas prices and traffic rates, is it really more convenient or affordable to own or lease a car?
Pretty much every day, Monday through Friday, I take Uber or Lyft. It used to be split pretty evenly, but now I go with whoever has the lowest prices at the time, just because for me, a day could look like $35. And so when I added up my monthly commute on Uber and Lyft, it was insane, $600, something like that.
Is it just a monetary problem, or is there a level of inconvenience to traveling with Uber, with rideshare and stuff like that?
I think it's once you pay that amount, even if it is $500, that's yours 24/7. If you wanted to go somewhere 18 times in one day, you're already paying that flat rate. But for me, that $600 could get higher if I decided to move around more often or go more places. That's just work.
That's it for today. Thanks for watching Unpacking Minimalism. In this series, we want to dig deeper into conversations from the Minimalist podcast and discover how these concepts can be directly applied in our daily lives. If you have any ideas for what we should unpack next, feel free to comment below. And remember, love people, use things. Thanks for watching.
The Minimalists.
Hey Jordan, if I give you my keys, can you run to my car and grab my hand sanitizer? Sure.
All right, minimalist. Let's see, he's not a minimalist. There's gotta be something. He's gotta have like rope or Kleenex or some kind of anything. Like nothing? Really?